Hi guys, welcome back. This is Instructor Phil Demetriadis, and what we're going to do today is part of our lecture for the Intermediate Digital Paint class is I need to show you how to use brushes that are sort of custom built brushes, how to modify them to create a new brush. I also need to show you how to download them and after you download them, how to maybe check them or adjust. And there's a couple things that are really important that are going to affect the way that we work. Our next assignment is going to be to create a graveyard in Photoshop, okay? And I'm going to walk you through and also do thumbnails of that during part of this lecture. So first off, you'll notice that I gave you my collection of brushes, okay? What I'm going to do is come down here to large thumbnail. This is how I like to look at my brushes. So you can see a collection. There's quite a few in here, right? So if I open up this window and scroll down here, look, there's a whole bunch of tombstones right here. Okay, so I'm going to select a couple of these tombstones and show you what a brush looks like. So when somebody makes a brush, there's a couple different ways that they make it. One common way is people take an image from a photo, and when they do that, the photo has what's called like a halftone. So do you see how I stamped that brush there and there's a halftone image? Okay, there are goods and bads to using halftones as brushes. Okay, one of the things for us is that we're not going to use that. We're going to come back over, and if I keep pressing on it, it'll make a pure black like that. Then we're going to go back in and we're going to add some of the detail on top of that. Okay, I hardly ever use brushes just like that because all the gradients and tone variants of the brush will always be different. So for example, that brush is going to be totally different than, let's say, the look of that. You see that? Because it's realistic. However, though, where this is a huge advantage for me is when I can come in and I can do this and I could stamp that into a graveyard scene like that, and then I can come back and add lighting on top of that to make it look realistic. Okay, and I'll walk you through with more demos about that. So in the brush set I just gave you, you have some of these elements here that you could use for a graveyard, and then along with that you also have some nasty old rickety trees, okay, that you might see in a graveyard. There's a variety of different tombstones in here, okay, and there's even some different collections like something like this, if you see that. So can you imagine that being set in the back? You have a whole variety of different elements in there that we can paint on. Okay, all right, before we start talking about any more brushes, what I need to do is I need to explain to you how to create a brush, how to bring in brushes, and how you can modify your own brush. Okay, so let's say right now in the brush packs that I've already given you, let's say we want to make our own brush. So I need to make sure I'm in Photoshop. I'm going to double click my lock off the back here, and I'm going to come up here and I'm going to upload. I'm going to have another layer that's empty. Okay, what I'm going to do is, let's say I want to make a brush that has two tombstones on it. Okay, so I'm going to come over here, I'm going to click this guy a couple times until I go to pure black. So let's say that's brush one. Okay, now I'm going to add another layer. Let's say on this one I decide to modify the top part here. So I'm going to scale this down. Actually, let's say scale it a little bit larger. Okay, and then I'm going to bring this over, and let's say I want to add, I'm going to take this guy here, I'm going to add him in. Maybe I'm going to make this one on different levels. So I'm going to put that one there, copy, paste. I'm going to bring this down, transform, stretch this guy out a little bit more. Okay, there. So you see how I made sort of a different version. I'm even going to come in here and adjust this a little bit by transforming on top. Okay, I'm going to combine these layers, go to transform. I might scale this down a little bit more. I might excuse me, I made a little mistake there. I'm going to make this, transform it down, and then I'm going to select the whole thing and maybe make it a little bit wider. Okay, so I'm going to come over here, select across the whole entire piece. I'm going to make it a little bit wider like this, stretch it out a little bit more. Okay, try to lower that back into the part here, deselect. That looks pretty cool. I'm going to do the same thing here, transform, scale this in a little bit, make it a little bit wider here, a little bit wider here. Okay, copy, paste, and I'm going to bring that, where's my paste? Let's try that again. That's there. Why is it not moving? Hold on. That's weird. Okay, every time I go to move that layer, it's jumping down to the lock layer, and I don't know why it is doing that. Somebody has messed with Photoshop here. So check this out. I'm on layer 4, and I go to move it. There it is. Maybe it was the auto select option. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste this little corner here. I'm just trying to make the brush look a little bit different. I'm going to enlarge that. Then I'm going to bring that little piece, put it on the top here, like that. Okay. And hold on, let me erase that little chunk right there. Okay, so that's looking a little different, right? I'm going to duplicate this layer. I'm going to bring it over to the other side. I'm going to rotate it a little bit more like this, make it a little crooked. There. So now that little headstone looks a lot different than the other one, right? I've modified it a little bit, okay? So let me combine. All right, so first I want to identify this as a brush itself. So I just made that from this with pieces in it. Okay, now let's say in here I wanted to put a little crack in there, so I can take my eraser right now, and let's do that. I'm going to let me get my good old 36 there, and I'm going to come in and just erase like a little chunk out of the corner here like that to make it look a little older. See how I did that? Maybe I'm going to erase a little bit of the edge off there. Makes it look a little used. Maybe I'll take a little chunk out of the side here like this. There. So it has its own type of character basically. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select over. This whole shape is on one brush right now. Okay. I'm going to select over it. And if I hit, there's nothing else there to select anyway, but if I hit V, which is the move tool, and if you hit arrow, okay, it selects the whole entire thing for me. So what I'm going to do is go under Edit, okay. I'm going to scroll down here to Define Brush Preset. When I select that, boom, it's going to now create that shape that's selected into a brush, and it's going to allow me to label it. So I can call it whatever I want. I'm going to call it Gaelic or Irish Tombstone. Hit Enter. Okay. Now, then I'm going to delete what I have there. Actually, I'm going to save that and I'll combine these two and make another custom brush, right? So now that I have that, what happens is some students will come over here and they click in B, and they go up to the top and they're like, where's my brush? It's not in there. Whenever you create a new brush, it always puts the brush at the very bottom of the page. Okay? So I want to move that up because right now it's down here with somebody else's brushes. I want to adjust that. To adjust that, I have to click this little gearbox. So when I open up my brushes by right-clicking on my desktop, I come over to the gearbox. I'm going to scroll down to the gearbox here. I'm going to go right down to brush or to preset manager right here. You see that? I click that open and voila, there are all my brushes. And if you look and I scroll down to the very bottom, there's that brush I just created. It's labeled right there. And here's the part that's the pain in the butt. You now have to move that to where you want it to be. So I'm going to grab this and drag it, and I don't see my other brushes there. So luckily, if I push into there, it will scroll for me. If I push down like this, it'll scroll. And look, right over here. Right over here is all my other tombstones, right? So I'm going to come over and drop it right here between the fish and the tombstones. Boom, and there it is. Okay, and then I'm going to hit done. All right. Remember, also on Preset Manager, if you're working to somebody next to you and they go, hey, I really like that brush you made, Matt. Can you make me a copy of your brushes? In the Preset Manager, I could come here and select from here, hold Shift, and go all the way down to here. And those are all my tombstones. And see how it illuminated them all blue? Now that they're all blue, I could say Save Set. And under my brush preferences folder, I'm going to call this Tombstones. Like that. Okay. Oops. I had something else in there. Tombstone brushes and hit save. Boom. Guess what I just did? I just saved that whole set of only the ones selected there so I could give them or transfer brushes to other people. Okay. All right. So now let's say for some reason I want to do it. Let's say I wanted to add a ground and have this other tombstone in there next to it, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to this top layer, okay? And I'm going to take my lasso tool really quick, and I have black set. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to just make it look like some type of rough beat up ground. Okay, that's done. I'm going to go to my click brush, or you can go under fill. So if I edit, I say fill, foreground color, which is black. There, I just added that in. Now I want to make my ground look like I have maybe a little bit of a leafy element there. So I'm going to right click on this. I'm going to scroll down to I have a couple brushes in here that look like leaves and whatnot. So let me find one really quick. Where'd they go? Where'd they go? Right here. So there's some leaf elements. And let me find something that's going to work for me in this situation. Here. So look, I'm going to take this guy right here. And watch what happens if I come over right here. And I press it. You see how that looks like it's a leafy ground element coming out of there? I'm going to come over here, make my brush a little bit larger. I'm going to press it here a couple times like that. Okay, I'm going to hit erase. I can erase that little chunk that's left there. I'm going to put a sharp edge on that by erasing a little bit. Okay, I'm going to come down and erase a little off here, like so. So now I've made that. That's pretty cool, right? And I could keep adding to it if I want to. It's just a shape. So now what I'm going to do is I want to add another little shape. I want to have some variation. So let me come back over. I used to have a brush with some leaves on it. Let me see if it's still in here. Okay, I think those are geometric shapes. That's why I like to label some of my brushes, so when I'm working I could quickly find them. Someone else had some neat brushes in here. Let me go look for them really quick. Actually, check these out. I gave you this in my brush pack. Look at this. See that? That's moss. Okay, so I can come in here, and what I can do is I can scale down real quick. I'm going to put some moss on the end of that. See that? Makes it look old and like there's something on there. Okay, and all right. Actually, I think I might take that off because it's a detail element, but that's something you could put on. So let me find another grassy type of brush that I have here. Somebody added a bunch of new stuff here, and I touched it a minute ago. There was one that was pretty cool. Scratchy. You know what? I might have deleted it by accident. There was one there. What's something that's neat? Alright, sorry, I'm going back up to the top here. Actually, sometimes I've discovered the top of a tree works really well. So watch, if I take like this tree branch here, I'm going to put a new layer, and if I come in here and sort of go like this, see, it looks like a bush right there. And then I'm just going to take my marquee tool, and then I'm going to delete the lower section like that. See how that looks? And then I'm going to grab this other layer, okay, this brush right here, that shape I already made. I'm going to come over, put it in here, and I'm going to turn it a little bit so it's a little crooked, right? So that looks pretty cool there, right? I'm going to click this top here. I'll just leave it. And then what I'm going to do is merge all these layers together, right? Turn it on and on to check it. I'm going to select it, right? Hit V, which is the move tool, hit an arrow. There's another way of hitting Control and Option, and you tap the layer and it'll select it for you. And now that I have that selected, I'm going to go back under Edit. I'm going to say Define Brush Preset again, and voila. Boom, I have that brush defined for me. Okay? All right. So now, really quick, let me show you the pros and cons of downloading brushes from online. If you go to Google, you could type in almost anything that you're looking for, and somebody will have brushes up on that subject matter. The only downfall I've discovered is, well, two things. One is sometimes if you have a PC at home, I have seen a couple idiots put virus or tracking software in a brush. Not much, just once or twice, because once I downloaded it on my PC. In my PC, I have a software called ESET, which is an antivirus. It's one of the best out there. ESET Nod 32 is what it's called, and it immediately kicked in and said, you have a virus on here. So sometimes if you have a Mac, don't really have that issue. I'm going to click, someone says they have graveyard brushes here. So I'm going to click this, I'm going to say visit to that website, I'm going to see where it is. I want to see if they're free or if they're charging me. Okay? And then here it is for amateurs and professionals. And look, there's a whole bunch. There's skeletons, cobwebs. Well, that could be of use for me in a graveyard, right? So just in case, I'm going to click those right now. Actually, the link isn't live there, so you have to click that link above it. Complete info and download. Okay, I'm going to download the cobwebs, and I'll go back and do some tombstones. And what do you know? It's DeviantArt, which is a great site for downloading brushes. Okay, I'm going to click download right now. And where to go? Usually it comes up and asks me, or tells me, where are you downloading for you? And I'm not getting that download information. Let me check that. Right. Where is it? Where am I missing it?
Yeah, right on top of where it's, or like right under the gray box. Down.
Down, yeah.
Down. You just pressed it up.
No, but I already clicked it. No. I already
Okay.
downloaded it. I mean, usually the browser window. This is why Internet Explorer sucks. Hold on. Let me go back to. I've already downloaded. It's just that usually the driver will come up like this. Here we go. And this will tell you right here. That's what I'm looking for. Is my download icon to tell me where it is, and it'll ask me. So what I hate about Explorer is it's downloading somewhere else that I didn't want. So I had those cobweb brushes. I'm going to type in cobweb brushes DeviantArt, and then I'll go back and get some tombstone. Okay, so look, come back here. So cobweb. I should have copied the. Hold on, let me see if I can do it real quick. See what the history was. Let's go back to DeviantArt. No, that's all right. I should have copied and pasted the browser over. So let's go cobweb brushes, DeviantArt. Let's see what we have here. I think it was this. Was that the one that we clicked? Is it page? Okay. Yeah, DeviantArt. Okay, look, here it is. So I'm going to hit download now. All right, there. This is what I wanted to get. I want to save the file. I don't want to open it, so I'm going to hit OK. Save file. And this is what I wanted, is this icon right here. It's telling me that the file is downloading right now. And if I click it, see, and I have access. That's what I was looking for. It's driving me nuts with Explorer. Because once I get this, I want to be able to say show all downloads. Because see, I can see the download right now. Okay, happening. So while we're in here, let's also type in tombstone. Brushes and, oh, that's why I wasn't typing correct. One sec. Okay, there we go. And then let's look around and see what, oh, that's cool. I don't think I've seen that one before. And sometimes you get these weird paintings that are done. So we're looking for brushes. There's tons of results. Let's say newest. Let me click here. Tombstone pack number 1. I'm going to click this, see where it takes us. There it goes. It's loading. And voila. There's the other download right here. And what's cool is that there's also some other brushes relative to that. There's vines, some other stuff. So look, and down here, there's more brushes. There's more types of tombstones and elements. So I'm going to hit download here and download this pack as well. Okay. So now I have cobwebs. I'm going to drag and drop it over like so. Okay. And then I'm going to come back here. Let's double check this. Tombstone zip pack. Okay. Save file. All right. Gonna wait. It's back here. Do you see it's back in my download option? I'm going to grab this. I'm going to create a new folder on my desktop. I'm going to call it Cemetery Brushes. Okay. So I'm going to drop cobwebs in there. And then as soon as Tombstone's done, I'm going to drag and drop that back over as well. Okay. Now, while that's downloading, when I click this, there it is. Do you see it? SS Cobwebs. Those are the brushes right there. Okay. So if I double click that right now, what'll happen? It adds it to my brushes automatically. Okay. Which I can do. Sometimes what I like to do to be safe is I like to save my brushes first I already had. So I just added 2 brushes to my other pack, right? So I'm going to come back into Photoshop. This just takes a minute. I'm going to click on here. Real quick, I'm going to go to the preset manager again. The other thing is I created that other cool brush, right? Which is still at the back here. I'm going to grab that, drag that, put it back in my brushes here where I want, back under my tombstones. So where to go? Here's my tombstones. I'll put it at the very beginning right there. Boom. Now I have the two brushes that are there. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit done. Let's go back. Preset manager. I'm going to save all my brushes now. Okay, and actually, to save them, I can just right click on my brushes. Let me do it over here. Hit that little icon here, and I'm going to say save brushes right now. I'm going to select, these are Phil's main. I'm going to select those, save, boom. That way, if the brushes that came in come with other crap I don't like, I can just replace them. Does that make sense? There's a sort of guideline I'm trying to get you guys to direct towards. Now that that's done, I'm going to minimize. I'm going to come click on cobwebs. Boom. Now they're on my brushes. So if I come back in here, I click, and I open this up, and I scroll down here to the very bottom. Look at what I have. Look, and not only cobwebs, what else came with it? Spiders. So I have a couple spider silhouettes in here, and let's just grab a brush and see what it looks like. I'm going to come over here, have that selected. I'm going to create a new layer. I'm in full black. Okay. I'm going to take this brush and go boom. That's cool. That's something that I could use probably in my piece on my cemetery, right? Okay, now that that's done, let's also go back in and add. We have the tombstone pack here. So I'm going to grab those from my download. I'm going to drag them inside my little folder here. Maybe not. Hold on. Why won't it download? There it is. There it goes. Now I'm going to check out the tombstone pack. I'm going to click it open. That's sort of cool. See how they did it though? They did it a little different. So they gave me brushes, but what did they do that's different? If I click this right now, they gave me images of renders. Okay, which is a good exercise. So what I would have to do now is bring every one of these into Photoshop. Okay. Select the whiteout, which is easy to do. Okay. And then I would take this and turn it into a brush. So, and what's actually cool about these brushes is that they're at a 3/4 degree angle. So here, I'm going to do that. I'm going to grab this brush here, drag into Photoshop really quick. Okay. All right, that didn't work. Let's try it again. And drag it up here to my icon. And look, when it came in, you see what it did? It took the white off, which is cool. So all I have to do is go to erase. Erase that stuff off there. There was a copyright notice on it. Okay, so I'm not going to use them, but I'm just to show you now that it's in there. Select all, the move tool, right? Edit, define brush preset. But why are you putting your brushes up for free on DeviantArt if you're putting a copyright on them? Doesn't make any sense, right? So anyway, define brush preset. There it is, done. Okay, boom. Now it's in my brush history. Okay, so one thing I want you to watch for is sometimes, let me see if I can find it. Sometimes you download brushes that are from, let me see if I can find it here. From photos. What happens, this will probably have it. Let's try this pack. There's some cool tombstones in there. All right. And let me see here. So this is up here. It's called the Tomb Pack, but there's no download for it, so maybe it was disabled. And I'm looking here. Sometimes they write it out. And this was back from 2012. So something happened here where those brushes are no longer available because I don't see any links. You can buy them here. Oh, that's why. Maybe they're selling them. So I wouldn't use those. Okay. So what I was going to tell you is sometimes when you download a brush, this will happen in Photoshop. Okay. You'll download a brush, and when you go to use it, it will do this. It will be a little bit sloppy. So let me see if I can give you a sample. So, yeah. See that brush I just stamped on there? Do you see this leftover gray right here, the little splotches in there? Do you see that? That means someone grabbed it from a photo and they didn't finish cleaning part of that out. That could be really frustrating to me when I'm working because those little dots will show up. So imagine if I had that silhouette and I'm painting that and I have a sky behind it that's lighter like blue, those little dots are going to show up inside my piece every single time, right? So you want to make sure when you bring a brush in, okay, you have to clean your brushes sometimes, or you have to go in there like this with the eraser, and you have to go through and properly get that brush prepared so you can use it, okay? So now that I would have this done, what I would have to do is I would have to select this, redefine it, bring it back in, go back and delete the old brush. Does that make sense? It's a little bit of a pain in the butt, but look, here's the brush that I just used. Okay, let me erase that. It was connected to the cobwebs by accident. So I cleaned this, right? I don't have any more dots around it. I have a couple more on this side. So I'm going to go in with my eraser, erase some of those. Right click, okay, and look, do you see the brush right there? That was the brush, right? To delete that, watch what happens if I press Alt on my keyboard. You guys all watching? If I press Alt when I'm in my brush mode, I get the scissors. So if I touch that right now, I want to remember it's right after my people, right by the lights. Boom, I just deleted that brush, right? And then if I come back here, that's the version I just cleaned up. Okay, I don't have any more overspray. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to select this layer, have that image selected, edit, define brush preset, hit OK. I'm going to come back to my brushes now. I'm going to click the gear, go to Preset Manager. I'm going to come down into Preset Manager, and I'm going to, it's hard to see the view. I'm going to go to Large Thumbnail. Where was it? Do you remember? I said it was by the people and the light poles, right? So I'm going to grab that brush that I just defined. This is the clean version now. I'm going to come back up here. I'm going to look for my light poles and my people that were in there. So I'm going to go down a little bit more, a little bit more. There were some people there. There, see the light pole? And boom, that's where I'm going to put it. Bam. So I dropped it back in its original place. It's a clean brush now with no little speckles. I hit done. Now what do I want to do? Save your brushes again, because if you leave the computer, everything you just saved, you just lost. And guess what? I do this all the time by accident where I forget to save. This is why I wanted to give just the special demo on this, and I'm sorry it's 30 minutes long, but it's really this important, okay? So now I'm going to come back, click on my brushes, click the icon, and I'm going to say save my brushes as fills again. Save. Yes. Because now I not only have I created brushes, I cleaned one up, and it's back in my history and saved in my file. Okay? All right. So now that that's done, let me stop the recorder real quick. I'm going to come back and do the second part of this demo, which is us doing little thumbnails for creating our cemetery. Okay? Okay. So really quick, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to talk about how to use these brushes and do little thumbnails. And then I'll let you guys work the rest of class, okay? So real quick, let me explain to you the principle behind how these brushes are working, okay? If I click this right here, what do I have right now? I just have a silhouette shape, right? However, though, if I come in here, put another layer on top, take my lasso, and if I come along part of this and do this, if I select that facade and I come in here and I do this, I'm imagining right now that there are rock formations here. And these are the highlights because my light is coming from the left on my shape, right? So by me coming in and doing this, I'm imagining this is light hitting parts. So imagine, follow my cursor, a bunch of rocks right in here. So I'm imagining there's a whole bunch of rocks and there's going to be light hitting a bunch of these little rocks in here. Okay? All right. So what I've done right there, okay, if I were to come into the brush itself and go to levels and lighten that up, oops, doesn't give me any light controls. It says pure black, that's why. Hold on a minute. There, I'll select it like that. It's a little bit easier. If I have that selected, okay, look at what happens if I come in with a soft brush, and I gave you guys these brushes already. And I want to imagine light is coming from the far left-hand side, okay? Do you see some changes starting to happen? Do you see how that feels a little bit more realistic now? By me coming back into it, I'm just indicating light is coming from one side. So what I can do is basically what I have right now is I have a selection around part of that shape. And by adding in light like this, it allows me to come in and start painting some little details on there. And I can get in there and pretend maybe there's a little bit more snow or white up here. Maybe there's more of a white highlight there. And then watch, now I can even hit deselect, and I can even come in. I'm just using my mouse right now, okay? If I grab my Wacom pen and I come in here and I switch, I can go back to black and see I can brush in a little bit more dark value over the top of that. So that allows me to come in and really get a quick change on shapes very efficiently, meaning that I can just, it's like cut and post. I can cut and post little images, and then I can come back in and add a light source in a part of my environment, and boom, I can have this realistic piece, okay? And the same thing happens as well if I come in here and if I grab a tree, okay, or like a big bush of some kind, all right? So let me show you a sample. So here, watch what I'm going to do here. I'm going to take this right now. I'm going to fill this with a base gray. Sorry, it's on the wrong layer. Edit, fill, okay. There, I have a base gray on there, okay. And what I'm going to do in that base gray is now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to throw down a quick plane in the foreground, like this. Okay. I'm going to go a little bit darker now on that. Okay, and then I'm going to come over here, put another plane in the back here that's maybe, actually let me do this. I want to bring that forward so it matches. Okay. All right, so I have part of that in there. And then I'm going to come in here and put a midground in here. Now I'm doing this the quick way. I'm not separating in layers. You guys will be separating in layers. All right, and I'm going to put this somewhere a little bit more in the middle. Edit, and I'm going to fill that. Okay, like so. All right, so what I've started doing is I'm already creating the basics of atmospheric perspective inside my piece. So if I come over here and I stamp and put this tree right here like that, see, it matches that tonal set in the middle. So I'm going to come over here, grab the darker tone, then I'm going to come over, grab another tree next to that. Oops. I'm going to put that right here in the foreground. So it's a lot larger. There, you see that? Okay. I'm going to delete the overspray of it. Okay. So if I want to create light now, I just pick a side in my piece and decide, hey, I want light coming to the far right, right? Oops. Sorry, there's a little overspray on that. I want to fix it really quick. going on with my brushes? Hold on a minute. Let's go back here. Give me this. There we go. Get that out of there. Okay, so if I want to come in here and indicate light is coming from the left, all I have to do is get in here and paint a couple little highlights on that little branch there. Okay, so I'm going to switch to a little bit of a white, and I could come in here. I could use my selection tool, but I could also come in here and just sort of do this and say, hey, white highlights are coming down. They're hitting part of my little facade here. The light's going to hit part of here. Part of my white might come down into here and might taper across. Part of here, some of that white's going to hit over here, like so. And I could even come back. I'm just basically establishing what I did with the castle. Light side versus dark side. Okay? So let me get a couple more in here. All right, so what I've started doing is I've started in my scene indicating where I have light coming down and hitting a particular object. Okay? And then if I come in here and push it even a little bit more, I could say, hey, the light's coming in this direction. There's a shadow from that tree casting over part of that hill, so I can even light part of the ground in here. You see that? So that starts to give the illusion now that I have a realistic world with light coming in it. Okay? So I could light something from the left or from the right. Now, my next step would be then to come in here with a darker value and to start pushing part of the shadows or the dark side of that part of that tree. So if I come in here and say, well, this is the dark side, it's not getting hit by light, I start to get a really realistic piece very quickly. And I've just done that out here. I could then come back in here and say, hey, where else, if light's coming to the left here, it's going to hit some of these stones, it's going to hit here. It might hit up on part of this. There could be a little bit of a pathway that winds us to where the viewer is and over this little hill. So I might have some other stones here. Might have a little bit larger something here. So I hit Control H right now to hide that. And I can take a nice soft fuzzy brush and see I can come over and see how if I start stroking on top, it starts creating sort of a realistic feel there. And I did darks there. That was a happy accident. I meant to do whites on that, but the darks are separating out part of the ground plane. Now watch what happens if I switch my color to white and come in here. I still have the selection. I can get what looks like little teeny highlights on some of these little stones or some of these little areas, actually in part of my trail. Okay, so I start to get something that becomes a little bit more believable. And I've done that in a matter of minutes. Okay, so if I spent 20 minutes on this, I can create a really cool base thumbnail to work from. Okay, so that's what you guys are going to do next here, is basically you're going to take all of these brushes that I gave you, but I want you to do one thing. Okay, I want you to make sure you're creating them in foreground, midground, and background on your layers. I did this to show you what not to do because it's all on one layer. Do you see that? And since it's on one layer, there's nothing I can do to adjust this now and fix it inside my scene. So this is how you guys want to start working, okay? You want to come over and you want to take a marquee like this, okay? And fill that, and on your layers, you're going to call that your BG layer. Okay, so look, I'm going to fill this with like a light gray like this, okay? Edit, and then fill, okay? Boom, all right? Next, I'm going to add a couple more layers here. So I'm going to come up right above, and I'm going to label this. I'm going to call this, go up to the top here, call this one FG for foreground. Come to one underneath, call it MG for midground. All right, and then after that, come over here and call this BG. Okay, all right. Now that that's said and done, hold on a minute. I want to show you, because it's in the demo. If I were to sit and render this, it's going to take a little bit longer. So give me a second. Let me pull up this window. Let me go to ArtStation, and I'm going to show you some work that I have up there and where I've done this. Okay. All right, hold on. Oh, come on. School internet is bogging down. I don't know why. There. And now I'm here. And I'm going to click. All right. And right here, I'm going to show you a couple samples. So you see this page right here in the middle, right? Do you see that tree that I just did right there in the back? Can you see it right there? Okay. That whole little study, and I'll do some of these demos for you next class. Okay. That whole little study was created for me creating these custom brushes down here and stamping them into an environment in atmospheric perspective, then coming back into that environment and adding a light source. Same with these, same with that, same with that. Okay, so all these little custom shapes and brushes I created and then brought them in the environment to create it very efficiently. So I don't want you to just use mine, because that will never teach you how to create your own, right? You're going to have to learn how to create, and I would like you to create 5 or 10 of your own brushes so you know how to use it a little bit more efficiently. Okay, so back to this. This is that process, right? I have my base background, okay? I'm going to come up here. I label that, actually what I call it BG, sometimes call it tone, or I call it BG sky, okay? Because then what I do is I come back up here and I start building my, I'm going to call that BG2. So now what I'm going to do is, using my marquee tool, is I can quickly come in here and select like a lower selection like this. I'm just going to select right there. I'm going to fill that with a value that's a little bit darker than that previous one I just used. Here, select that, edit. I'm going to go to fill. Boom, there it is. And now I'm going to come up to my background now. I'm going to do the same thing, but now I'm going to take my lasso tool. I'm going to draw a little something that might be like, you know, right over here in the front, like so. And I'm going to come over here and do something a little bit here as well. Like that, okay? Get that section in there. And now I'm going to come over. I'm going to go a little bit darker again. Okay, edit. I'm going to fill again. Fill. Boom. Foreground color. Okay. Then I'm going to come over to my midground here. So now I'm in my midground, right? And I'm going to do the same thing. This time I'm going to put another structure sort of here. All right. Maybe that comes up over here a little bit. Maybe this side goes a little bit higher. Like that. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to go a little bit richer. Okay. And then I'm going to come back over here to my direct foreground. And I'm going to throw in some ground up here. Like that. Okay, and I have a little bit of overspray. I can adjust that really quickly. Oops. Deselect that. Come in here, just deselect that. And I'm going to make that a little bit richer. So what I'm doing here is I'm creating part of the foundations of atmospheric perspective. Okay, do you see it happening in the piece? I now have dark receding back to light. Let me erase this right here. Boom. Okay. Oops. Okay. So, what I can do right now, once I get this set in here, I can start placing tombstones in on these layers and create some type of a cool environment. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start over here with my foreground to create scale. I'm going to put a big tombstone in there and a tree. Okay. So I'm going to come over to my brush. I already have that color locked in. All right. I'm going to come right over here. Let's just grab a tree and a tombstone really quick. So here I grab some brush right here. So you see that? I'm going to scale it down a little bit. I'm going to come in here and just go like this at 100%. Now, I accidentally skipped layers. I moved layers by accident. I hit a hotkey. So let me undo that. Let me make sure I'm back here on my foreground. Okay, my foreground selected. I'm going to come back. Look, there, I put a little brush mark there. I put a little brush mark there. I don't mind the overspray. I can erase it a little bit later, or you can set up a, there's other ways around that. That's no big deal. I like to work fast. I'm going to come over here to another brush. This time I'm going to come over and I'm going to grab a tombstone. I'm going to put it up on the front. But when I grab this tombstone, I'm going to want to tilt it just a little bit. Okay? Sorry. My computer's wigging out because the recorder's going on. So I get a little bit of delay there. So let's grab this one, right? And it comes out. Look, it's huge. So I'm going to adjust my brush size real quick. I'm going to come up here. And let's say I want to turn it just a little bit more. So I'm going to add a layer above my foreground. And then I'm going to come in here and say, here's my tombstone size. There. But I want to turn it a little bit so it's on a separate layer so I can rotate it just a teeny bit like that. Boom. I get that set in. Let's come over, put another tombstone over on the other side. Okay. I'm going to come down, shrink that down. And then look. I push that in there. There. Now I have created a dedicated tombstones, and I'm going to merge that into my foreground layer. See that? The reason why I want it in my foreground layer is because it's easy for me now to adjust. So if I want to adjust this and make this layer a little darker, do you see how easy it is? All I have to do is come over to my levels. So now I'm going to come back here. Let's go back to this layer. This was midground right here. Do you see it? And I have a little bit of light value in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back here. I'm going to grab one of my painting brushes. All right, and I'm going to paint that in here. So just scroll up real quick. Grab my paintbrush here. And I'm going to come over here. I'm going to make sure I have that right color. And I'm going to paint this in here, like so. Okay? Don't worry about a little bit of the overspray. You can get that later. Delete it, okay? Now that that's done, I want you to come into that now and give me a tombstone there that's going to be smaller in scale size, but at that same value. Because what we're doing is we are actually setting up a rough thumbnail with predetermined atmospheric perspective in it. So when we go to light it, it's going to be 10 times easier to create something that looks like it's in tone and it's realistic. Okay? So now that I've done that, let's come back over here. Let's grab a couple other tombstones. So I had another, those are building structures, what I do with my brushes. Sorry, I have too many brushes. I need to simplify. Okay, so here, let's grab, I have a set of, let's grab these that I created earlier today. Okay, so if I come back over here. Okay, why is it not selecting? I don't know. And let's go to brush. That's on. Let's try that again. Okay, so the brush size is really huge right now. There it is. That's why we didn't see it. It was enlarged by accident. So look, that feels pretty cool. That's smaller than the foreground. I'm just going to come over here and put this right here on that layer. Do you see how I did that? Okay. So I'm going to come over here now. Let's say I want to put a little bit more. I have that old rickety tree, right? So I'm going to come over here. I'm just going to click that right there. See how cool that looks? Let's say I want to get my rickety tree, but I want to get it over to the right side there. So I'm going to add another layer. Click my rickety tree in there, hit transform, and you see that? Now it's on a separate layer. I'm going to tell it to flip it horizontally. I'm going to rotate it. I'm going to get that shape in about right there. Okay, that feels pretty cool. And you know what? Just to save it, I'm going to save this. I'm going to hit the move tool, bring that over, transform, flip it the other way, and I'm going to put some of that in there so it looks a little bit different. There. Hit deselect. Here, see how I did that pretty efficiently? Pretty quick, okay? Now I'm going to come back in there, I'm going to add something on the ground here, okay? Let's go back to brush. Let's look, see what else could I add? What's something cool? Maybe I have a light post in there. So I select that light post, come off. And maybe have a post that's a little bit higher. Don't ask me why. Let's say I have that post about there. I'm going to stamp it in, okay? Because maybe I have a pathway by that post, and it takes me in. So now that I did, that was just, I'm going to merge that layer down. Remember, I did it on top. I'm going to merge that to my midground. relabel it MG. So in a matter of minutes here, look at what I have. I have my background sky color. I have the background layer, which I haven't done. Okay, and then I have the other background here. So I'm going to go to this other background. It's blending in a little bit too much. I'm going to go to levels right now, and I'm going to darken it just a teeny bit. See it right there? I'm going to go right about there. And then what I'm going to do is come back here to my midground. This is just me adjusting my layers a little bit, like so they're a little bit easier to see, right? So now I'm going to come in. I want to put something in the back there, but I realized I've created quite a bit of clutter. So I'm going to raise these hills a little bit more in the back here, like this. You see that? I'm going to raise a hill there. Okay. I'm going to come in here. Oops. Hit the stupid Windows key. I'm going to raise another hill, sort of like right in here. Okay. See if I can't maybe get something. Oops. Hit the wrong. There, I got something there. I got something in here, right? Like that. Okay. Now, that was back over here. Double check the layer. Wasn't the background, it was just the BG1. So I have that now. I'm going to double click this, make sure I have the right tone value, which is there. Hit OK, edit, and I'm going to fill that on that back layer. Okay. So by doing that, now I added some other hills, which means if I put other tombstones on those, I can make them smaller, and it's going to add more scale. So let's do that real quick. Look, I'm back here on BG now. Okay. So you see the depth I'm starting to get in my piece. Actually, why don't I take this light, I'm going to scale down my light, and I'm going to put another version of it up on this hill right over here. So it looks like it's receding in perspective. So I have multiple lights in my scene now. In fact, I like that so much, let me scroll back over here to my foreground up on the top. Okay. I'm going to relabel it because after I merged it, I forgot. And look, I'm going to come back here and hit my color picker. Grab that darker value, and I'm going to put this here in the front, much larger, like that. There. So see how I'm creating depth in my piece now by having 3 different lights? In perspective, we call that the transformation of scale. As things receding, they get smaller, right? Let's go back to our BG layer, and I'm going to add some other elements in there. I want to make it a little leafy on that ground, so I'm going to click my brush icon here. I have a couple of different brushes that I could use. I have this sort of ground brush that I've used before, so I'm going to scale that down and come up here and just put a little bit of that about right here. Uh-oh, what did I do wrong? Forgot to adjust my value. So I'm going to come back here, grab the value there, all right? There, I got a little bit of leaf there. All right, now I would like to rotate it to the ground plane because I'm on a hill, so I'm just going to add a layer, put it in here, hit transform, scale it down, bring it like this, maybe squash it a little bit, like that. There, so see, it doesn't look like just a complete flat hill. It has a little bit of something on it, right? And I can do that over here as well. So I might come over here, go a little bit larger, then go a little bit smaller, maybe smaller again, maybe something's over here a little. So you see what that did? It decorated part of that background plane, right? So I'm going to add, and then let me add a couple more tombstones on that. All right, so I got a tombstone here. Way too huge, right? That's because I'm zoomed into my piece here. So I'm going to add in a tombstone right about there. Okay. I like that tombstone. So what I'm going to do is add another layer, put it up here, transform it, right click, flip it horizontal, scale it down a little, bring it maybe over here and rotate it a little. There, so it's back over there. And then let's put a different tombstone in there. Let's grab a tall guy. Okay, oops. So I have this tall guy, and maybe he's over here, like right next to it, sort of in the way right here on the path. There. So you see how what I've done now is I've created an automatic read of what's happening inside part of my piece, and then I'm going to come back, merge all these layers. Let's turn them on and off so we can see what's happening. I've created, look at my mini thumbnail. See that? I've created with a mini thumbnail an environment of a world, and the next thing I'm going to do at next class is I'm going to go into this and I'm going to light it. I'm going to pick a light source, just like you guys did on the first project I gave you. You're going to put a light in and you're going to light it, and within a matter of minutes, you'll have a realistic environment that makes sense. Okay. In fact, let me give you a little fill secret. Okay. Check this out. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to put another layer up on the top. I'm going to call this path. And watch this. Just using some basics of perspective, I'm going to pretend I have a path coming in here. And my path is then going to go over this hill, wrap around and curve like this. Okay. And then my path is going to, maybe it's going to come up a little bit and over like that. And it's going to walk, maybe the path will do this, come up to there. Okay. I'm going to take out this part of the path. I'm going to come in here real quick, take out the part over the leaves there. Okay. And now that I have that, I'm going to hit Control H. Okay. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to pick a softer little bit of white. Okay. I'm going to go to my brush. And let me show you, just remember the brushes I gave you. You have these texture sets up here, right? So check this out. First, let's start with a fuzzy, and then we'll go to a texture. So what happens in atmospheric perspective, everybody? As things recede, they get what? Lighter. Lighter. So I could come in here right now. This is what I call a little bit of the magic. See, if I come in here very lightly, I'm going to go to 0.5 on my brush. You see that path developing? See it fading back there? You see how cool that is? Can you see that on the monitors? Hopefully you can. I know they're a little lighter. But by me doing this right now, I'm going to... See, I just took the eye and took it on a directional line through part of my composition. And I haven't even put light in yet. So the better I can make my composition look by overlap in simple principles of atmospheric perspective, the better the end result's going to be. Now, watch. I did that. Look, I still have my ants. See that? And I kept it on a separate layer because I'm smart. I'm going to put another layer above it. I'm going to right-click. Let's grab some ground texture. You guys have all these brushes from me, right? So here, I'm going to take some ground texture. And I'm just going to come over here and tap this at like 20. And see, it puts a little bit of weird line in there. I'm going to take this one. It has a little bit of broken texture. Take my brush, my pen. I was using my mouse for a minute there. See? And that creates a little bit of texture variant inside there. Okay. The other thing I could do, since it's selected, I'm going to put path text for texture. I'm going to go ahead and put another layer up on this. I'm going to call this path darks, because paths also have little dark values set in them. So now I could come over with this brush. Let me switch to a little bit of a darker value here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab another texture variant like this guy. See, and if I come over here and start peppering, it just gets it to fade off and on a little bit. So it doesn't make it look so pristine, okay? And just there, I just hit it a couple times, put some dark values in it, and if I take all these, I always usually combine these and keep them on top of the path, okay? So right now, you should have, I have a background layer of my sky. Uh-oh. Hold on, I close my layers. Oh, come on, go back to paint mode. Anyway, that's all right. I'll just do it for right now. So this was for my demo earlier, right? You shouldn't have more than 5 or 6 layers on this. So look at my layers real quick. I have a background for my sky. This is really important because then I could even come back in here. Check this out. I'll put a layer above it. I also gave you guys clouds. Okay? So look, if I grab this right in here, and if I come back and hold on, let me go to X. Let me bring this up. I'm going to click that, and I'm going to go a little bit lighter than that background set. All right, back on brush, and now check it out. And I'm doing this with a mouse, guys. Hold on. What am I doing wrong? It should show. Maybe I didn't go light enough. Come on. Or it's, you know what? It might be the recorder getting a little. Oh, I know what I did. I still have my selection on. That's why I had my ants hidden. There, check that out. Ooh. See, I'm creating some mood in here really fast. Look at that, guys. Have I even started rendering yet? No, I haven't done any rendering. See how cool that feels? You see the distance in there? Do you see the mood? And then if I want to, I haven't even introduced a light source yet and got shadows and all that good stuff. And then check this out. You know how I put the sky in there really quickly on that separate little layer? I could come back in here, take another layer, put it on the top, and I'm going to call this fog. And then I could come here in the foreground and do that and go like that. Now your eye sees fog in the front and in the back, and it creates depth. And that came out a little bright, so I can go down to my layer and I could thin it down. See how realistic that environment feels? It's nothing but shapes. Okay? And that right there is one of the golden secrets. I want you guys to go through and make about 20 different thumbnails like that using the brushes I gave you and create your own brushes. So let's say you showed this to your art director. Your art director really likes it and he goes, Phil, you totally forgot there's supposed to be a hill in the back. Go put the hill in the back, right? So what I'm going to do really quick, this is the benefit of us separating everything on layers. So look, background 2 here. I'm going to come over, I'm going to put another layer, okay? I'm going to put it right above and I need a label real quick. I had my clouds in the back, so I'm going to come over to this, and this should be right underneath it. I'm going to call this house. I prefer to call it actually BG house because I like knowing my layer structures. I find it very efficient for producing work very quickly this way to know exactly how things are labeled. Okay, HOU there. All right, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put a hill back here with a house on it. Just like that. Okay, I'm going to fill that. Edit. Fill. Foreground color. Whoa! Way too bright, right? All right, let's go to X. Let's switch it up. Let's fill it again. And I'm purposely going to bring it in darker. Okay, but that's all right because now I'm going to go to levels. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lighten it down to blend into the scene. Okay, so I notice my clouds are messing with it a little bit. I'm going to turn my clouds off. There we go. Now I can adjust this and get it a little bit lighter. So look, if I get not quite that light, hit Control H to hide my ants. Okay, you know what? Hold on a minute. Let me fill again. I had some weird outline thing happen there, so I want to fill it completely. Now I'm going to go to levels. I'm going to lighten it to where it fits in there. Okay, hold on. It's doing it again. So, hold on. I had a little issue there. Let me back up a couple steps. So what it's doing is it's filling, and it got some weird gradient in there that I don't like. And I don't know how it got in part of that. So let me just come in here real quick, create another one. Okay, that's my hill. The layer should be clean. And now I'm going to go to Edit. I'm going to go to Fill. Okay. I'm going to hit Deselect. I'm going to go to Levels. I'm going to lighten that back up to where it should be, where it's just barely seen. You see that? Right about there. It's barely seen in the environment. Can you see it? I know the monitor's a little bit lighter. And what I'm going to do, if you go look in the brushes that I gave you, there are a couple houses and structures in there. Okay. So that's something you can create on your own if you want to do more. So look, right after tombstones, right about, I think I put them in here. Yeah, look, there's buildings here, but there are a couple houses. And so that's something that you might want to look into. Maybe you guys can go create your own rickety looking house. I have one brush right there. I thought I had more. I might have them at home, so I can look into that, okay? So look, I took that brush right now, and look, I'm going to come over right here on that hill. Uh-oh, too light, right? Command Z. grab the value of that, and look. Aha, now I have a house on that hill. In fact, since I'm in silhouette land, check it out. Add another layer, put another house, transform, squash it, make it a little bit taller. Now I just enhance my silhouette of my house. See that? Using the same brush I just had. I'm going to take those, I'm going to merge them together. And now in the back here, PG, house. So now I could come over and I could add my trail going up there real quick. Let's do that. I'm going to go to path, hit D, make sure I have everything deselected. And I might come over here. I had the path wind up over that hill. I'm now going to bring part of my path up this way, like that, up along here. And what I'm going to do is get it right up to the front, sort of like this, a little thinner. And I'm going to have it go sort of behind that light post. Make it look like you could literally walk up part of that hill. Like that, okay? And then I'm going to hit minus here to take out the light post selection right there. All right, let me get this grass selection out. That's good for right now. Hide, go back to my brush, switch to that lighter value, go back to my nice soft little brush, right? And I'm going to come in here. Look at that. See what that does? Takes me right to that house. That came down a little too bright. I'm going to go down to like a 1. And then what I do is I like to just pepper it in a little bit. See the path coming out of the house right there? And see it folding back down? Look, and see it coming this way? So after this hill, I'm going to pepper a little bit in there, break it off, pepper a little bit on that turn, and a little bit at the base of the house, right? So see what I have here? Now I've taken you up. I've introduced a focal point. I have part of the story. I have multiple, here's something else I want you to think about. I have multiple lighting options now. Turn on the clouds, and then you realize like, whoa, I got a cloud over the house. It doesn't quite look right. That's fine. What I can do is select that cloud layer, hit transform. Okay, it's doing this thing where it keeps transforming the wrong layer. Oh, deselect, that's why, my bad. And look, I can even squash part of my clouds in there like that, bring them up, and now you can see the house better. I could even erase some of them. Why? My clouds are on a separate layer. Do you see that? Okay. Then, I haven't even put in gradients yet. I now have gradations I can put in there. I have light sources. I can darken the sky. I can determine if it's swampy gray afternoon. Is it nighttime? I can tons of different things I can do. And that'll be our next lecture for the next class. So what I want you guys to do is basically do a whole bunch of studies like this and do everything I just did, but no lighting, no rendering, and no gradations. Everything in there should look just like that. Okay? Just shapes, foreground, midground. You can have 2 midgrounds, whatever you want. Try putting a house shape up in the front, put something in the back. Hey, you can have things on different elevations. That's a key to success. And have fun with it, okay? All right, this demo's done then. Thanks, guys.